we're jumping into these waves, and then you can hear the engine going out of the water, whee,
Yeah.
and then falling in the water again. But there's pitch black. You don't
Yeah.
see anything. So there's this girl with this baby, and the baby falls out of the boat, and she wants to jump, and we're holding her. There's nothing to hold on to in the boat. It's very slippery, all water. There's water all over. So you're literally on the air, not knowing if you're gonna land on the boat or on the water.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hustle on Purpose podcast. My name is GT Ikard, and today we have a very special guest, Andriel Diaz. How are you doing?
I am doing great, and thank you for the opportunity, GT, to have me here.
Oh man, yeah, I'm so excited. So, it may be a little different than what we normally do today, but when we had the opportunity to have you on, I was just excited because I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last couple months, and your story is it's just incredible, and it really ties into a lot of what we're trying to do here with not only like entertaining or motivating people, but really just showing what can happen with enough intentionality and effort. And when I hear your story, it is just the story of somebody that is relentlessly determined to do the best for themselves and their family and their church and their community that they can. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do as well in my own very different story. But like I said, super excited to have you on and to have you share some of that with us today. So I don't know where you want to start, but if you can, just introduce yourself and maybe start giving a little bit of that background wherever you feel comfortable starting that at.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me today, GT. Here I find myself being 9 years old. In my house, one of the poorest, not to say the poorest in the neighborhood, in the state, in the whatever you want to call it, really bad situation, hanging an American flag in the back of my bed that I would share with my grandma and my brother, three of us in a small bed. And then all my family was communist by the time, so I would get beaten all the time because of having that flag. They would rip it off. I would sew it up myself.
This is in Cuba.
That is correct. I would sew it up, hang it up again. This is a time where they still believe that Cuba was the dreamed country, and Cuba and what they were saying for the country, what the government was bringing for the country was a dream and was true. They still believe that. Not anymore, but these are my times when I was a young kid and I already dreamed about being an American. So 9 years old, and you talked about intentionality, and yes, I was, with 9 years old, I was like, I'm American.
That's amazing.
I was supposed to be born in America. I would get beaten up for saying this. My mouth would be my lips broken because I was punched for saying this, but I would repeat it. I was like, this is not something I want. It's something I feel. It's not like I want to be American. I feel like I'm supposed to be American. I was always the weirdo in my group, and they would be like, you were not supposed to be here, like, go wherever you want to go, but why are you so different? And I think there's a little bit of, a lot of intentionality in everything I did. I was like preparing myself for one day that I would be here. Being 20-something, 30, my 30s, I was like, is it going to happen? Like this that I've always felt, God, is it true? I mean, like, am I going to be there? I'm 31, 32, so. And I started not giving up, but saying like, you know what? If it's going to happen, it's going to be in its time. But anyway, going back to what I'm coming from, yes, most of my projects in life were failed, and I would say most of that was due to the system and due to Cuba being a communist country. Like I lost my career because I couldn't afford it, even though it's free to go to school. Still, you have to go to Havana University, for example, where I was studying foreign languages. I had to travel, and I didn't have the money to travel because my parents have no money. I come from a dysfunctional family as well, where they didn't even prioritize my studies or anything. All they thought about was just food.
Surviving. Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So had to.
Sorry to interrupt, but
It's okay.
the system chose foreign languages for you too, right?
Well, in this case, because there's so much into it, but trying to sum it up, I always wanted to be a doctor, and I always said since I was very young, I've been always very intentional with what I want. I wanted to be a doctor. My family always called me the little doctor, and that was a dream for the whole family because nobody in my family, except for my mother, who is a nurse. Other than that, none of my uncles and aunts, nobody studied. There's a lot of mental issues in the family as well, alcoholism, drug addiction, family like abuse in the family. So really, really bad situation. And I was like the hope, like he is gonna bring a good name to the family. There's not gonna be shame anymore. We're gonna have a doctor in the family who thought that Solorzanos, which is my second last name when I'm in Cuba. I don't have it here anymore. I took it off intentionally.
Right.
Because it was sort of like my shame having that second last name. And I decided at last minute that I would not do that. I don't still understand. I would say like in a human way, I don't understand why I changed last minute literally, because it was 5 minutes before they called me and said, which career you want. I did a sacrifice and I went to the military service for 2 years when I had to do only one, because they decided that the school I was studying in would not give any more medicine careers to anybody because they wanted teachers. I never wanted to be a teacher like in Cuba. I love being a teacher, but not in the system. So I was like, I don't want this. But they said no opportunity to change schools, no opportunity to do anything other than become a teacher. Because we need the teachers in the revolution. The revolution needs teacher, and that's your should be your calling to be a teacher. I'm like, no. I was the second one in Cuba. You have to do like a competition with your grades to see who gets what. And if there are 2 medicine careers, for example, and the first 2 people won it, out of 600, the third one cannot study medicine.
Right.
Because your school was assigned just 2 of those. So I was the second one to choose which career I wanted. So I could have done medicine, but I was like, no, I'm going to do foreign languages. I don't know what this is. I saw it in a pamphlet. I don't know what this is. I don't understand 100%, but I think this is what I need for my life. So because I did that sacrifice of doing the second year in the military service, they gave me the opportunity of changing that teacher career to whatever I wanted. So again, now I understand why God wanted me to do that career, because it was weird. I went back home and my grandma had literally a heart attack when she heard that I had switched. Because
literally a heart attack?
Literally. Like hospital, ambulance, blah, 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 everything.
Oh, no.
And then my aunts, part of my family was really upset, and they started fighting to each other, trying to find who to blame because he changed his mind. I was still a kid, not a kid anymore, but I was young, and everyone was trying to find, our family came down again, that we have no hope anymore. What is foreign languages? What is that? Because in Cuba, being a doctor is like, it doesn't give you enough to live, but it gives you status,
Right.
And I gave that up for just something that nobody knew what it was, not even me.
It's a lot of pressure to put on a kid. Like, you have to go into medicine.
Yeah. To make a name for the family.
To make a name for the entire family. Yeah.
Not to survive, because everyone knows it's not enough for a living. Right. It's just because we want to say that, the black family, there's a lot of racism in Cuba too. So this black family has a doctor in the family. Guess what? We are not that shame anymore. They wanted me to be the savior. Was a lot of pressure.
Yeah. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from. That's a little bit of my background. A lot of again went to college and lost my career of foreign languages because I couldn't travel. I didn't have 40 cents to go to school. So I had to go to the bus and ask people, hey, can you give me 40 cents so I can get to school? But they would see me like a grown-up man, and they'll be like, go to work. Like, because they got to know me at some point. I was like, you again? Because we were traveling the same people to the same, the same commute. So they were like, you cannot do this every day. We cannot give you money every day. So I ended up not being able to finish my career thanks to communism.
Yeah, man. Now your wife was a doctor in Cuba.
That's correct.
Yeah, awesome.
See, I met her when she was in 12th grade, ready to go to college, and she decided to be a doctor because her father wanted her to be a doctor.
Right.
We always joke with him, but it's true that he's a frustrated doctor. He was not able to study and but she always wanted to become a doctor. Then she's pushing on her like, this is good for you, this is good for you. But at the end, she was like, you're pushing this on me because you wanted to be a doctor. She became a doctor, and right now she's in America here with me working in a bakery, and she's happy. And she says, I don't want to do medicine anymore. Like I started it for my father, basically.
Right.
I wanted to make him happy.
Well, baking, you get the science, but without the life or death, right? It's like because baking is very accurate and more scientific than a lot of other jobs.
But if you compare it to medicine itself, is that there's this opposite worlds,
right?
Like,
yeah, less stressful.
Yeah, less stressful, and she's doing something she's passionate about. For the first time, she's like, that's another thing that she's enjoying. Like, I'm out of Cuba, and for the first time in her life, 33 years old, and she's able to say, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
This feels good. Like, I don't have to do what my people are telling me or what the revolution is telling me or what my father is telling me. I'm doing what I want to do. Right. And that goes beyond bakery. Goes deeper than that. It's like I am being a person and I'm deciding for myself what I want to do. I'm free for the first time. Yeah. And she's enjoying that right now.
Yeah.
I'm almost used to it now after 7 years and a half. But
yeah,
she's like we have whatever we want to eat. Like we're not the richest people in the country, but we're not struggling. Like I'm not thinking what I have to cook tomorrow. I don't have to think. I open the fridge and whatever we have, I cook it, but I don't have to think about it because we have the food there.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm free. Like, this feels good.
And you can go to a job and you can make money, and that money, you can take it to a grocery store and buy food and put it in your refrigerator.
And nobody's telling me.
All these things we take for granted. Yeah.
Nobody's telling me, no, you can take only one bottle of water today.
Right.
What? I have the money for 3. No, but we have to distribute all the water we have because we don't have enough. It's my money. I worked for it. There's water in there. I want it. No, you cannot take it.
Yeah.
You take only one. The revolution says it's one per person. Then she brings someone else. You want a water? No, I don't want a water. Do you have money to buy it? No, I don't have the money to buy it. I'll take it to the shop, and you will say it's for you, but I'm paying for it. And she wants the water. And they look at each other like, we know it's for you, but it's another person. And then she goes to another friend, hey, you want a water? No, I don't have the money for it. I have them. So that's what you have to do just to buy water. So when she gets here and she's like, can I get a full case? I'm like, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as many cases as you want.
They'll sell you as much as you want. Yeah.
She's like, I don't want to walk out the door and somebody stopping me because I'm getting too much. In Cuba, that's called, what would be a word for that? They call it something like, there's not a specific word for it, but they call it greedy accumulation.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they call it, greedy accumulation.
Like hoarding.
Illegal hoarding.
Yeah.
It's around that. Yeah. So it's just water, but because the revolution says you need only one, and they think you need only one. There is 6 people in your house, but with one bottle of water, you should be enough. It should be enough. If you're getting more than that, then you are accumulating stuff illegally, and you could even go to jail for that.
Wow. such a foreign concept here. This episode of Hustle on Purpose is brought to you by Arkansas Real Estate Buyers. If you have a problematic piece of real estate, we would love to help you. Go to the description, click on the link, schedule a free consultation with me personally, and we'll get you set up. Now let's get back to the show. Going way back to the beginning of your story when you were 9 years old with your American flag and sewing it back together after, family would rip it. And I just couldn't help but think, how many 9-year-olds in the U.S. do you know that are equally proud to be Americans? Because I've always been a proud American. I try my best to not take for granted how good we have it here. It's not perfect, but it's very, very good. And I feel like it's improving in a lot of ways. But I feel like, just as a general blanket statement, like we have just lost sight of how good we have it. We've lost sight of how great a gift it is to have opportunity. The handouts from anybody that may feel good short term, you get something you need, like that's great. But I'm just so thankful to live in a land of opportunity. What you do with that opportunity is up to you. I feel like there's just so much squandering of opportunity. And that was one of the big reasons I was excited to have you on today, because I think some of your story just goes to show what somebody can do when they have that intentionality, determination, hustle, to go do it, and given the opportunity. So I don't know. Now I'm just rambling about opportunity, but when you hear these stories about Cuba, it's just like there'd be riots in the street if somebody, if Walmart would only let you buy one bottle of water. I mean, there would literally be like riots in the street. That's such a foreign concept here. We can't even wrap our mind around it.
Yes, I can tell you, because of what I went through, I am so ready to tell my family, and she knows, my wife knows, my son knows, if I have to go to war to represent my country as a citizen of this country, I don't think about that twice.
Yeah,
I'll wrap the flag on my shoulders, and I'm sure of this. I mean, I was 9 years old when I was getting beat up by my family. Mm-hmm. So believe me, I am so sure that I would go to that place with such a happiness.
Yeah.
Because I think it's part of my responsibility to, do what I have to do for my land. And it hurts when I see kids here. I've seen videos of them burning the flag or disrespecting the flag. When I talk about the flag, it's just not the flag, what's behind it. Because at the end, it's a piece of cloth. But
right.
What does it represent? Like, what is in your heart when you're burning it? Mm-hmm. And it hurts because, everything that America has given, again, it's not a perfect place, but everything that this land has given to them, I think probably it would be helpful to take a bunch of them, and instead of doing summer camp, doing Cuba camp for a couple months. And I'm telling you, they would come back here loving this country and loving every opportunity they have and taking advantage of it. That their opportunities are walking by in front of them, and they just don't see. They don't have the capacity of seeing what they have in front of them.
They haven't had that perspective that you've had. And I have certainly fallen, in that category before, where it's like, oh, woe is me, I don't have, the opportunities that so-and-so had. And like, if my dad made that much money, I'd be able to do that. Or if, whatever. I've let myself fall into that victim mentality before. And it's a really dangerous, it's a, what we would call a slippery slope. It's like you can start down that path and then just go down it really quickly. I've lived long enough now, and I've pulled myself out of that victim mentality, because you end up realizing it's getting you nowhere. There's no way to it but through it. Like you have to pull yourself out of it. You have to work. You have to take the opportunities presented to you. You have to do the best that you can. And where it leads you, you may not know that, God's path for you a lot of times doesn't look at all like you want it to look selfishly.
Yeah.
But you get a little bit older and you can look back and see like with your foreign language experience and stuff like that. It's like now you can look back and see, oh, I had to go through that to get to where I am now. And
Absolutely.
now that experience is serving me so well.
Absolutely.
So let's fast forward to, so you're in your early 30s. How did that go when you were like, I'm going to the U.S.?
So I am doing a theological Baptist seminary, studying to be a pastor in Cuba. And I get to know this other friend who was, seminary is huge. So, but we just happened that we had to go for a weekend and take care of it was a rotation where every student would have to go and take care of the seminary throughout the weekend and walk around and make sure that everything was safe, like sort of like a security guard thing. They would do it as a way of service, right? And I get to know this guy that's also there. His name is David. And he just comes to me and he's like, hey, somebody have told me about you. Can we sing together? I want to sing with you. And I look at him and I'm like, who are you? Like, you don't come to someone randomly like that.
It's an odd question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he has talked to another friend of ours that we had in common and we didn't know about me. And he said that he wanted to know me. I was like, okay, that sounds weird, but that's okay. Let's, especially in a weekend where you're by yourself there. And I was like, okay, but whatever. We get to know each other. We become best friends, and we have the same dream of coming to America. So we always joked saying that I was the one who, with a little bit of the trades that I knew, a little bit of masonry and carpentry and stuff, could make the money if God provided for the first time a good job. Because in Cuba, jobs were like, let's say, good job was like $200, which would be enough for 1 month.
$200 how often?
One job, the full job.
Okay.
So that it sounds horrible now, but in that time that was like, wow, that's good, right? Even though it was enough, just not even for 1 month. But that was my part. Like I can put that into the cost of going to America, and he could do like put the crazy mind, like, let's do this. I don't care. We're gonna do it. Yeah, but we have this problem. We don't have any problem. We're gonna do it. And he will look at you with open eyes. I'll be like, this guy is nuts. Like, he's out of it. And he'll be like, what do we need? And then he had actually some connections in Trinidad and Tobago, people that had traveled there and came back to Cuba because they were deported to Cuba from Trinidad and Tobago. But at least that was one door, because to get out of Cuba, you have to go wherever you can that they don't require a visa.
Just to get out.
And every day it's getting less and less countries that are not requiring visa for Cuba, because they realize, okay, I'm not requiring a visa for you, and next thing I know is I have thousands of Cubans here without papers, and they supposedly coming as tourists, but they don't go back. So they start asking for visa for Cuba. So at that point, it was Trinidad and Tobago the option. Everyone was going to Trinidad and Tobago for tourism. So he was like, we are going to go there. I'm like, how? I was like, we're going there. So that combination of let's work, God being amazing and providing for the first time a job, renovating a full house for the first time in my life, that was $2,000. We were like, and that happened like 5 days after we started talking.
Wow. And that's like a year's worth of expense, like 10 months worth of expenses.
I would say, yeah.
Wow. Like that's a big job.
It was like, what is this? Like, I never thought that anybody in Cuba would have the money to pay this. And he was like, buy whatever you want. I don't care what the price is. Then we came to know that he had a relative here in America that was interested in fixing that apartment, because they wanted to travel to Cuba every once in a while and stay there. So they wanted it. They were already used to the standard here in America, so they were like, I want to do something really good in my apartment. But they found me. There were so many Masons in the area, and they just looked for me, and they said they liked my work. And I was like, God, you're amazing. I mean, you're in the business, because why hasn't this happened before? I've been asking you for a job like this for years, but it was not the time. I needed this, because I would have done the job and used that money for something else. I wouldn't have jumped to do what it needed to do.
You needed David, and you needed the job.
In my life. So we did the job together. He moved to my house, only one bedroom. We were 2 marriages, and then my kid. We were all living in the same place for like 3-4 months, just by faith. Like, he had to move. We lived very far away from each other. We quit the seminary, so it was a lot of faith in there. And then after 4 months working, another friend of mine who is a Mexican, who was planning to marry my wife's best friend, told me, hey, I don't like America, but if that's your dream, here you are, $2,000. That's my savings that I have. I was like, God is in the business. So all of a sudden, I have $4,000 that we used to get out of Cuba to go into Trinidad and Tobago, like buying passports and everything we needed, the tickets, plane tickets and everything to get to. And it happened just like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this other guy was from Mexico and he was in Cuba?
Yes, because he was in that time that he wanted to marry my wife's best friend. They met at a book sale event. And he was traveling very often to Cuba to get to know her and see if they would get married or not. But she introduced him to us because she wanted us to, get to know him and have a feeling of who he was. Sort of like, help me with this. I like him, but I want your opinion on him. And we became good friends to the point of we still are good friends today. And he was like all my savings, but I want you to fulfill your dream.
It's hard to not give him a good recommendation after that. You're like, you got to marry him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, it takes. We were like, is he doing this because he wants that recommendation because he knew what we were.
Could be both.
Yeah, but I mean,
it got you out of Cuba.
Yeah.
So
let's say that. Let's say that he's a good boy. He's a good man. He's a good man of God. So
yeah. It's funny because the reason I was asking because you mentioned he was Mexican, and I was like, I'm so used to the U.S.-Cuba relationship where it's like I would never just go see somebody in Cuba probably, and I'm not even sure how the visas and traveling back and forth work.
We can talk about one day, but crazy.
Right, but I guess with Mexico and Cuba, it's just very different. It's just like.
Yes, Mexico. Still, you cannot go to Mexico without a visa, because Mexico is right next to America.
Right.
So Mexico is like, If I get you here, of course you're gonna cross the border to go to America. The world knows that I would say, with no fear of making a mistake, 95% of the youth, and I'm being conservative with that number, is trying to escape. I talk to all my friends and they're all thin, so thin that they look that they're sick.
Yeah.
And I left Cuba 7 years ago and this was not happening. We were struggling. Some days we would not have anything to eat, but usually at least a little bit of rice and a couple fried eggs or boiled, because we didn't have the oil to fry the eggs, boiled. But now my friends are, when I left, they were, going to the gym and they were well built and, they're all thin, and I'm like, what's going on? Why are you sick or something? I was like, no, we are starving. We are starving. And then it's not one friend, it's not two. Most of my friends, my family, there was obesity in my family too. That's part of my family. All my uncles, they were all, except for one, they're all their skin is hanging and they're all super thin, and it breaks my heart because it's even worse. When I left Cuba, they were all heavy, and now it's like they're all like this, and you see all the loose skin and you realize something is not okay. So one person too, okay, but most of my friends, most of my family,
systemic issue. Well, and then you're living in America and you walk around and 60% of the people are obese, and it's like we have the opposite problem. It's just like, and it's just so, yeah, it's awful. It's awful for me to think about the fact that like we just have so much food. They just like throw away, no telling how much food every day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And to have a country so close with people just starving. And it's thinking too, it's like as much as people want to complain about the US, we can't even imagine our government restricting like where we could travel to. Like that's like an extremely foreign concept. Like it's crazy to even think that like, oh, well, like Cuba, like Mexico and Cuba, like they're going to make you have a visa because they know you're fleeing Cuba and you're trying to get to the U.S. I'm trying to think of the U.S. doing something similar, and it's just I can't even like wrap my head around it because it's such a foreign concept for us here.
Now, for me, someone who have seen both, I am telling you that we need to be very careful because the steps that are being taken and the way they are working things out is very intentional, number one, because I can say it now, nobody can fool me around this. It's very intentional. I know how the revolution happened in Cuba when, I mean, obviously I wasn't born by the time, but I have the comparison pictures of the same exact places before and after the revolution, and those don't lie.
Right.
Okay? Pictures don't lie. And I'm telling you, Cuba is a disaster right now, and everything started with the same steps. Fidel was smart enough to go through certain steps. I was watching a video yesterday when he was telling here in America in an interview. I know you guys are concerned about Cuba being a communist country so close to you here in America, but I am saying it here now in front of these cameras. I am not communist. Cuba is never going to be a communist country. We hate communism. I was watching that video yesterday, and I'm like, I mean, like, in Cuba, we say, you don't have a face, you have a block over your shoulders and it was all intentional. He knew that he was going straight to communism. So in America, they're doing
But you have to just
things.
take a little bit and then a little bit more.
Yes, and they're doing certain things here. This thing of the government taking care of people exactly the way they started. The government does not have to take care of people.
Yep.
The government has to provide the infrastructure and the everything for you to work and be free and protect the freedom of the country and work for the people.
Yep.
As our Constitution says, right? Oh,
right.
And Cuba, I mean, they started doing little things like, hey, you give us your weapons because we are together now. There's no need for weapons.
Yeah.
Give us your weapons, and we are going to give you a fridge for every one of you.
And we'll protect you.
For every family. And we will protect you with those weapons from the capitalism and from America that wants to take care of the country and kill us all.
Yeah.
So give us your weapons and we will give you a fridge. Imagine there were people that had never seen a fridge in their life. They were living in jungles with no electricity. So he was promising them to all the people living in the countryside, we'll bring electricity to your house.
Yeah.
We will give you a fridge so that you can
we'll give you food for your fridge.
They would be like, what am I gonna do with this?
Right.
Take it.
Take it. Yeah.
Big mistake. Then you see now how 2 years ago people were being killed on the street, mostly youth, because they started protesting for the first time after 63 years of revolution that it was enough, that they didn't want it anymore. What happened? Nothing happened. There was no global or world organization that stepped in. Nobody helped. America didn't step in. Nobody stepped in, and tons of and I could actually get in trouble for saying this if someone high enough sees it, which I don't care, and I would love to say that, look into the camera, but it hurts to see my friends. I saw a video with my friends being beaten up, and I wanted to travel, and my wife was like, stay there, because my wife was still in Cuba. Stay there, you don't come here, you're not the hero, but it hurt how government was beating them up and nobody had weapons. My friends with stones and sticks. and they had the best weaponry
Yeah.
and blah blah blah, the ones that they took away from us,
Right.
at the beginning. So that and then Venezuela sent their troops as well to fight against disarmed people, and they said top-notch troops, like the ones that you use for war.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is communism.
Yeah.
You're fighting and beating up your people because they're saying we are dying, please help us.
Right.
The ones that are supposed to protect them now is beating them up. This is showing the real face of communism.
Well, the biggest threat to communism is the people becoming unhappy enough to revolt against the communists, because the small group of elitists rely on the large group of non-elitists to provide everything for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that's awful. The trend in the U.S. and here, people call you a conspiracy theorist or whatever,
Oh,
when
yeah,
you're just
sure.
like, I just don't like believe in handing over all of our rights to the government. I can feel the gaze of people when you start saying stuff like that, and they're like, oh, like immediately I'm just a far right wing, like conservative, whatever. And it's like, no, I just, I don't want to make short-sighted decisions for myself that leave my children and grandchildren in a worse spot. Like giving up the guns for a refrigerator. I can't blame those people. It's like, if you don't have a refrigerator or electricity.
And they didn't know better.
Right, and you don't know any better. But that all those refrigerators are gone. They've been trashed for years, right? That was 60 years ago.
And they were refrigerators created in China to last 1-2 years intentionally. China built them to give them to the countryside people in Cuba. China built those. Just imagine, it's all in governments, dirty stuff working. They're doing all this to oppress people. China is building refrigerators in a rush for Fidel.
Yeah.
And Fidel's like, doesn't matter, make them look white and beautiful outside and put trashy stuff inside. I just need those refrigerators like now. And China is rushing, building these refrigerators to send them to Cuba and give them to farming people to have a refrigerator for the first time that's going to last, just to trade that for their freedom, basically.
Well, you give them, and that's exactly what I'm saying. It's like the people making the short-sighted, like immediate benefit decision, but giving up the long-term freedoms. It's like, and I see that happening here, was like you were saying, it's like, I just don't want to give up long-term freedoms for short-term gain. And I think the media makes me feel like I'm in the minority there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting talking to immigrants, because I think, especially like when Donald Trump was president, everyone kind of expected immigrants to vote Democrat, and were shocked when a lot of them were voting Republican, even if you disagree with the more Republican stance on immigration. They tend to agree on everything else, all the fiscal policy, and the protecting the Constitution and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting thing with the majority, and I don't want to say the majority, but a lot of immigrants being more on the Republican side, even though they're typically tougher on the immigration side.
Because when we put it on a way, we go like, do we want this country to go back to go to what I escaped? Mm-hmm. Or do I want to bring my cousin?
Right.
Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, we put it on a scale, and I'm on myself, I'm like, I have family. Like, I have my mother. I want to bring my mother, which even though with Donald Trump or whoever comes in, Democrat or Republican, the law is there for me to bring my mother. I'm a citizen of this country. But there are other people that are not citizens. There are people that they don't have papers, and I feel bad because it's tough to be an immigrant in this country. Still, it's way better. There's a reason why they escaped. There's a reason why they left. And if you're gonna tell me, okay, we're gonna make this country communist or very similar, and you're gonna bring your family, they'll be like, no, there's no way.
Exactly.
I left my family
Right.
alone, escaping that system.
Mm-hmm.
How can you say that you're gonna bring this system here? So that's why they go like, okay, now.
Yeah. Like, it's probably pretty easy to get into Cuba. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that it's, how do I say this? I think you summed it up perfectly. It's like, if the United States became more socialist, communist, whatever, they would allow more people in, but it's like, why would they want to come? It's if it becomes like the place they're leaving. And part of what helped me on the immigration topic of things is realizing no one leaves their home.
Oh, no.
No one leaves their home in their home country unless it's a bad place to be. And so as I've gotten older and as I've met more people and heard more stories like yours, I would be honest and say I used to fall more under the not, I guess, more strict immigration laws, because my thinking more back then was like, well, they call it illegal immigrants or immigration for a reason. It's got illegal in the name, right? Like, there's a legal process to go through and all of that. But as I got older and I met more people that have done their best to go through that legal process, and that legal process just drops the ball in all,
intentionally, brother.
Oh, it's awful, dude. I mean, and you obviously know more about it than me, but I like, there are so many outstanding additions to our society that I know in our city that are trying to go through that legal immigration process, and they just make it impossible. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Like, if you made it here and I don't know any of them that aren't doing an incredible job of being productive members of society. I don't know any of them that are leeching off the system or anything like that. They come here solely seeking opportunity, and they find it, and they just work and provide, and most of them send money to their families
and create jobs for other people here.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I've seen a lot of the immigration side of things now in the last handful of years, and I'm just like, I'm not necessarily just for open borders. There's got to be checks and balances, but that there's got to be a way to make it to where people that want to come in this country legally can do it legally, and that process isn't difficult.
Oh, believe me, we've created systems to go to the moon back and forth.
Right.
And we've created a system to, go everywhere we want it, but we don't have a system to cross 90 miles. It's intentional. So there's ways. It's just that we don't want to. We don't want to, we need a money-making machine.
Yeah.
And then it could be, I don't know if we're getting too deep into stuff, but
well, I don't.
But it's designed to be the way it is. It's working. Let's say it's working perfectly,
right,
according to the purposes of what they wanted and they had it in mind. It's working fine. It's going well. Not for us,
right? Yeah,
but it's working.
But for the people that design the system, it's doing
absolutely.
It's working.
Illegal people just know that illegal people, if they want to, they pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
They are assigned not a social security number, but what is called an ITIN number for them to pay taxes.
Yeah.
And it's a legal system. So up to what point am I illegal if you're giving me a number to pay taxes?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, which at the end, after one day they catch you and one day they're after you and you show that you've been paying taxes for 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years, it could help not to be deported. Still, it's not like, there's a system that I've been paying taxes for 15 years and now I can become legal. No.
Huh.
Yeah. So there are people that are illegal here. I know them, and they have businesses.
Yeah.
And when I say business, I'm talking about huge
businesses
where they deal with people and everything, and they sell stuff, and they luxurious businesses, and they don't have paperwork.
Yeah, so it's like, how can you even call them illegal when you're...
It's because it's a name that helps me whenever I want to make you fall into one category because I don't like you anymore. You're illegal. But if you're good, you work, I give you this number, hey, here you are, give me taxes.
Right.
Make a business if you want. You don't need papers to make a business. Like, if I'm illegal, how can I make a business?
Right.
Yeah, you can make that business.
Yeah.
If it's going to generate a lot of money, give me my taxes and you'll be good. You'll be good.
One of the dirty little downsides of capitalism.
Which, to be honest, not 100% sure if it's a dirty side or maybe a way for them trying to cope or trying to figure out what can we do with such a big problem of so much immigrants that want to make it. You know, do we deport everyone or what do we do? Like, I cannot tell you 100% if it's that dirty side or maybe no, maybe it's just not very, how can I say, like, I don't have enough information to tell you this is what's going on, so I would not do it. But is it helping? I think it is somehow, because I know these friends of mine that there is not a system. What I don't understand is why is there a system for them to pay taxes and to have this number and blah, blah, and there's not a system for them to become legal. That's the only thing I don't understand.
Right.
However, these people that are hard workers and great people, at least they have this way. If the other one is not created to become legal, at least they have this way of making a life and you know, making their dreams come true. And is there a better way? I don't know.
In my mind, and I mean, I'm an idiot. I don't know much about anything.
That makes two of us.
But it's like, man, if I've got a business, and that business has tax returns for 5 years, 10 years, what else do you need?
I'm proven. I'm a good citizen.
What else do you need? Literally, what else do you need? Yeah. In the eyes of our government and the way capitalism works, especially, what else do you need? You know how hard it is? I mean, you know how hard it is to run a profitable business for 5 years, even as a natural born citizen, much less like all the extra difficulties that come in with being an illegal immigrant, the extra hurdles that you have. If you come into this country, you find a way in, and you come into whatever community you're living in, and you run a profitable business for 5 years, what else? What else can you do? It's like, in my mind, like, boom, somebody like stamp them a citizen.
Yeah.
Give them their...
They have to wait for their kids to become 18 years old, and then their kids, because their kids were born here, their kids, that's the way to become legal somehow. Their kids has to claim them. Something
ridiculous.
Like that. Something like that.
That's absurd.
You have people having kids not because they want to have kids, but because they need the kid to be their savior. Yeah.
So then we're back to the beginning of putting all the pressure on your kid to, like,
somehow. I mean, like, I cannot become legal unless you become 18 and you're a good citizen. You have to behave. You have to become. Once you become 18, then we'll do the paperwork for me to be 18, 21. I think it's 18. So again,
it's a flawed system. All right, we've at least come to the agreement the immigration system's flawed. It needs some overhauling.
I don't know if they think they do.
Right. Yeah.
It's working perfectly fine,
it's
bro.
too deep of an issue for me. I'm like,
believe me, when I
somebody
get into
smarter
this,
than me fix it.
My mind starts like, no, but this, but that. Like, I mean, I don't even know if they want anything to be fixed.
It's gonna mess with my head all day that somebody can be given some form of a tax ID number, social security number type thing, pay taxes, own a business, show that it's profitable, and still be illegal. Like, that's just going to mess with me all day. I'm just going to be like, how's that possible?
Their heart's like, I cannot be stopped by the police or
right. You have to live with this, like, my business is going to be taken away. I'm going to get deported. Like, how do you... So much of that could be remedied by stamping some paperwork and being like, hey, you did it. Like, way to go.
I already gave you this number for you to pay taxes.
Right. It just, it blows my mind. Blows my mind. Somebody fix it. So let's pick back up with, you leave Cuba, you go to Trinidad and Tobago. It's you and David?
That's
just
correct.
you two. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We left our wives. We just realized they thought that they couldn't have kids anymore. I mean, they would never be able to have kids because of some problems that she had in her whatever. And we realized before we leaving that she's pregnant. So I leave my son being 4 years old, and he leaves his wife pregnant after they thought they had already given up the idea of having kids.
Wow.
So we left, going to Trinidad and Tobago. We were there. I mean, I got again, that's God's way, at least in my life. We ended up working for the Prime Minister in Trinidad and Tobago. We didn't know he has a farm that needs attention, and he hires us as farmers to work in that farm. I just realized later on that he was who he was.
Wow.
So again, I come here to America, and there is I don't realize, but I'm being taught by Jill Biden in my classroom, and then I don't know, but I'm working in Trump International Hotel, and next thing I know, that's Trump Hotel while he's a president, and here I am, next to with the president. So it's just like, for me, that's God's way to say, you are where you are supposed to be. You are in the path that I designed for you.
Yeah.
So Trinidad and Tobago was like, I'd say 3 months working. Again, trying to settle there because everyone was saying, no, there's no way to immigrate from here to America. It doesn't exist that. Like in other countries here, it's not common. There's no business. There's no human trafficking business to take you there.
Right.
So we were trying to find ways to stay there. We didn't like it. There was a point when I was like, you know what? Let's settle here. It's way better than Cuba. I'll bring my wife. But again, David, the crazy mind, was like, no, this is not what we did. This is not where we came here from. We're going to find a way. We're going to find a way. We're going to find a way. Yes, we did. We got this call that we didn't know where it came from. I still don't know who called me and how they got my number, but they told us, white van, 5 a.m. in the morning, Saturday, if you want to go to America. Who's this? Hang up. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And you still don't know? Just like,
no, I don't know who called me. I was like, David, we're leaving.
We're getting in a white van at 5 a.m. on Saturday.
So all the people that we already had there that loved us, that supported us to get there, that helped us, that are still helping me, they were like, no, you're not doing that. You're not doing that. I was like, we were doing it. I was like, they're killing people just to get your kidneys. I was like, well, they have 2 kidneys here available, but I'm going to do it. And we did it, and it was a crazy trip, we got here 2 weeks later, 2.5 weeks later. We were in the jungle and all crazy stuff, but we got here safe. Thank God.
So how do you get here? So it was a 2-week journey. You get in a van, you go through the jungle, you're on like a boat at some point, and where do you land 2 weeks later?
Okay, so do you want me to sum it up, like to
however you want to?
Yeah, I'll try to do it. I mean, it literally is so much in it. I have a book that should be coming out really soon, but
do you have a name yet for the book?
Going South, Chasing My North.
Love that, because you had to go
Trinidad
and Tobago. Okay, love that.
So, but the whole idea was like, we went to Trinidad and Tobago, found this way, jumped into this van with a few other people, most of them Cuban, because the system was there. We just didn't know.
Right.
We were not in touch with the right people for it, but the system was there. So most of them in the van are Cuban. We go in this van. They're gonna take it to the shore, to where there's a very, I don't remember what the distance is, but between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela, there is like very close land almost touching each other country. So they're taking us to this point where there's a boat already waiting for us there. Police starts. Police knows about it, so they start running behind us. But the guy was driving. He's used to this, so he stopped in a place where there was a party, and he opened all the windows and he started talking to the people, and they were like, "Hey, help us here. We are going somewhere and we need your help." And the people in the party realized, so they start talking to us and coming and bringing us drinks. And I was like, and the police stops. I mean, like they slowed down on our side and they thought we were part of the party. So that's how they left.
Wow.
As soon as the police leaves, they start over driving again, driving like crazy, and they take us to this place where there's this boat that has a crazy powerful engine or motor, however you say it, and the boat is not prepared for that because the boat is homemade.
A tiny boat with homemade. A huge...
Yes. So we were literally jumping against, and then of course there was huge waves that night. So there was we're jumping into these waves, and then you can hear the engine going out of the water, and then falling in the water again. But then it's pitch black. You don't see anything. So there's this girl with this baby, and the baby falls out of the boat, and she wants to jump, and we're holding her. There's nothing to hold on to in the boat. It's very slippery, all water. There's water all over. So you're literally on the air, not knowing if you're gonna land on the boat or on the water. There are studies that say that stretch right there from one side to the other is always sharks. They're used to human flesh, like used to.
Because there's so many people.
Because it happens so often, people fall in there, that you can see, they've shown, these cameras from the top, like their heat or whatever, and you see them swimming. They don't go all the way. They just go from one corner, one land to the other, from Venezuela land to Trinidad and Tobago, from one side to the other. So,
and this is to get into Venezuela, which is its own nightmare.
In the jungle, just to start with. Like, cops were taking in Venezuela. Obviously, we know the corruption, communism as well.
I mean, Venezuela is awful.
Yes, so they were taking our money away, and then this police officer will tell us, give us money, and then call the next one in the next station. Hey, this bus, such and such, is bringing Cuban people. Stop them and ask them for money. So we were giving away our money from side to side. We were Venezuelans for a couple of days. They made a fake ID for us so that we could fly inside Venezuela from one state to the other in Venezuela. Then from Venezuela, we had to go to Colombia, which was the most dangerous part, is the Darien Gap.
Darien
Gap, which is one of the most dangerous jungles in the world. It's taken by the drug people. They built their paths in there. And then there's this business with the human trafficking that they pay the drug people to use their path. But the deal is always, you pay us thousands, but we cannot see you. If we see you, you're risking our lives and risking our business. We do whatever we want with you. So trying to cross from Venezuela to Colombia, they obviously caught us. Not obviously, but it doesn't happen many times, but they did found us, and they were doing sexual dirty stuff on us, and they were pointing us with their guns, and they made us run backwards. After days of walking in the jungle, they made us run backwards, so they would start shooting. Crazy. We had to move corpses to walk because there were corpses everywhere. Having wild animals following us, like I remember this huge black tiger that we were walking in this path, and they were in the jungle, but you could see it following us. Or I'm sleeping one night and I feel like we had to sleep, take our clothes off and sleep almost hugging each other because of the cold, how cold it gets in the jungle in the night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, David is used to jumping on top of people because he's used to sleeping with his wife, and he doesn't keep his hands for himself. So all of a sudden I feel like something in my back and rubbing me up, and I'm like, this is David on top of me again. And when I wake up, David he's been rolling all over. He's on the rocks close to the river, all over there. I was like, then what's touching me? I lift a piece of plastic that we were sleeping on, and there's this huge snake stands in front of me. It's like bright green, and it's standing my height. I'm like trying to call David, like David. My voice is not coming out. Snakes. Eventually, I start doing crazy moves. Snakes goes down.
Dude.
I called David, but he has a defense mechanism that he makes his mind. He's good with doing with his mind whatever he wants. It's like he's making in his world, in his mind, he's just in a camp trip.
Yeah, he's having a great time.
I'm getting upset. I was like, your life is in danger, but that's his way of dealing with this. I was like, I'm not gonna even tell him. Then next day, this aunt, you can find it, Google it as well. It's called La Congolesa.
La
Congolesa from Congo, from Africa.
Okay.
Congo in Africa. Well, Congolesa is this ant that is, it bites you, and it's really bad when it bites you. And I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of my finger missing here, like a little bit of a crazy shape here.
It took a piece of your finger?
No, it beat me up in here, and then it injects its poison in you. So my hand got all swollen. They thought that I would have to cut it with a machete. I was dizzy by an ant. And
right. And just one. Golly.
So
Yeah.
there are frogs, and there's so much in there. Then we started hearing this noise. I'm trying to sum it up.
No, it's
I'm
crazy,
hearing this
man.
noise that it's like basically like it my mind, when I think about it, it's like that.
It's 12 o'clock.
It's basically like that, but more like, that's so weird. More like
That is weird.
Like a something from a factory or something.
Yeah.
But it was more like metal. It sounded more like metal. Weird. I was like, there's civilization somewhere. We're not in the middle of it. They were like, no, those are monkeys. And it would go for as long as that, or way longer.
That's so crazy. So I don't know if it'll show up on the mic, but the where we live, the tornado sirens do a test every Wednesday at noon, and they're doing it right now. It's like a high pitched.
I'm getting chills. It was exactly like that, but more not equal like that. It was more like metal. It gave us the impression of a factory being close by.
Yeah.
Like a big factory. And they said, no, that's the male of the huge, this huge, how do you call it? Not monkey.
Like gorillas?
Like a huge gorilla. One, not even a gorilla.
Like a baboon?
Yeah, family of the species that is making this noise. That's the way for them to get the females and mate. We cannot get close to them.
I was about to say monkeys yeah.
Oh, but we're talking about your size, which is a lot to say, okay? Huge.
And yeah.
And I'm like, but it's been going like for almost 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And no breathing. Like, how do they do that? Are you sure that's an animal? Because it doesn't sound natural. It
Right.
doesn't sound. It sounds like not. Well, yeah. They said yes. And the coyote that was guiding us was like, yeah, and we don't get close to those. Guess what? They were crossing over, and they started throwing poop at us, and they were coming down the tree, but we were all like, run, because if they get down the tree, especially the male,
Yeah.
I mean, you're gone. Imagine this animal your size.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
man. So they left, like you ran and
we ran,
stopped chasing you.
Full of poop, but we ran.
You'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
We took it like happily. Then we were sleeping in the river. Close to the river. The coyote tells us, "Hey, you have to go higher because in the middle of the night it could flood all of a sudden." And it has happened before with other groups that I've led that the river has taken all of them down, and they all
Just
drowned.
a flash flood.
So
and
it happens in the middle of the night with no previous anything.
Wow.
So we have to. You guys have to go higher. Then we feel like the floor is like trembling, like it was like an earthquake. Like really, that's an earthquake too. And he was like, no, that's people that are coming. Then tons of people from Africa and from Pakistan came there, and they started like threatening us. They were immigrants trying to get to America.
They were trying to make it too. Yeah.
But the mindset that people go into the jungle is kill before you get killed. So we thought that we were gonna get killed by them. Next thing I know, we end up sleeping with I'm sleeping with this African guy, on top of me, hugging me. I'm like, really? Because we ended up being like, hey, no, we're in the same thing as you. We're not drug people. We're just trying, because they go ready to kill to fight with the drug people, which is almost impossible. But that's what they have in their mindset. Instead of going low, they go like, we'll kill them. So I was like, no, we're just immigrants as well. I mean, like, let's not fight. Then Pakistanis were fighting with African people because I don't know what was the misunderstanding between them. And we were in the middle, but they had machetes, and we were like, we're going to get killed by other immigrants in the middle of the jungle. Again, we get to this other place, which is La Loma de la Miel, which means basically it's like the mountain, the honey mountain, something like that.
Okay.
Which is the cross from Venezuela to Colombia.
Okay.
They caught us. They brought us back. Then we climbed the mountain again. We came down, and eventually we made it to Panama. Panama had, for the fourth time, a group of Cuban people that passed the 4,000 in amount, and America has said for the third time already, we'll take them in. Because Panama said they don't want to stay here, they want to go to America, and they made this deal where America said, we're bringing them in. This was the fourth and last group. America had already said, we're taking this last group very soon.
Yeah.
But not anymore. America said that publicly, and then Panama said, we're sorry, Cuba, we love the Cuba government, blah, 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 but we are not accepting more Cubans, so we're closing our borders. So we passed, and as we are passing the borders, I got to a small restaurant, I never forget, and I pass out. But then when I come back, I see on the TV in this small restaurant the troops, the troops forming and going to the jungle, and I had just passed the jungle like 1 hour prior to that.
Yeah.
Then I get to join this group, and then I get my ticket. I get my ticket, and I pay for my ticket to get here to America. To Mexico from Panama. They were flying us to Mexico. So I hardly made it to join the last group coming here to America. Then they flew us to Mexico because for Cubans, there's a law. I don't know if you've heard it, but there's a law called wet, dry feet.
Okay.
And then there's another law called Cuban adjustment law. Those are the two laws that would help Cubans to get. That's why other people from other countries get a little bit jealous and upset with us, because we have these laws created for Cubans that would help us to get papers. Now it's not that easy anymore.
Okay.
The last couple of years have changed, and these laws are not. It's not that easy for Cubans anymore. Still, there's a process, and still we have some benefits, and still it's easier for us, but it's not as easy as it used to be 2 years ago. So if you get to America, it has to be either dry food, you have to make it walking, just to cross the border walking, or wet food, you have to cross the borders through the ocean. But for example, if you get into, for some reason, you get in America in a plane, they deport you.
Huh.
So these laws are, once more, what are these laws encouraging? It's just, illegal immigration, because you get paperwork. If you want to benefit Cubans, why not flying?
I guess they just know where you're coming in. If it's because you could fly into Wyoming
or whatever,
but you can't
No.
walk into Wyoming or swim into Wyoming or take a boat. You
I
know
would
what I
say
mean?
so. The idea is you have to cross the border illegally, and then you can adjust yourself to these two laws.
Yeah.
Dry wet feet, or Cuban adjustment, which is complete they work together as well. These two laws, they interchange with each other, but at the end you have to cross. You have to enter the country. There's a story of this guy that got into a plane into a suitcase and made it all the way here inside a suitcase. I don't know how. Oh, I remember now. He worked at the airport, so he was the one putting the suitcases in there. He locked himself inside a suitcase at the airport. So the plane came here, and then he got here. But I think I don't remember very well, but I think he got deported because he didn't cross either walking or swimming.
See, this is how ignorant I am on the immigration stuff, because I just kind of assumed we had set rules for, like, this is how anyone from any other country gets to legally become a U.S. citizen. I didn't realize that there was country-specific immigration laws. Huh.
Yes, and there's some of them, like you could see Mexicans that have been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
And there's no way for them to become legal. Some of them even could get married to an American. I mean, I may be saying, but some of them, I mean, it's not easy. No, it's not even like go get married with an American person. No. So, and then you get Cubans that we get here. And for example, my case, in 1 year I had work permit, and in 1 year I had the right to apply for my green card to become a resident, permanent resident.
Mm-hmm.
So I apply in 1 year, not even 2 years, I get that card and I'm already legal.
Yeah.
Then once I get that card, I can already claim my family as a permanent resident. I don't have to wait to be a citizen. So 5 years later, I can apply for my citizenship. 5 years after I touched American ground.
Right.
So it doesn't matter this year whether I don't have work permit or anything. As soon as I touch American ground, 5 years later, I can become a citizen. So that's the process, but it's different for
it's
different
countries. Yeah. Wait, so you're in Panama. The U.S. says they're going to take 4,000 people. You are like one of the last people to get in that group.
Because I was the fourth group.
Right. And you fly into Mexico, but then...
In Mexico, I have to walk. They cannot fly me to America.
Right, because of that law.
It's America, but they cannot fly me to America. So America...
The U.S. is like, we're going to take you.
Yeah.
But you got to walk. You got to walk the last little bit.
So Mexico, can you take them? Panama is like, America, they want to go there. They don't want to stay here. I have a crisis here, and it's even a humanitarian crisis because I have to provide food for thousands of people. They are not working. They're consuming our goods. They're fighting against us because they are, all in one place. They're living under normal conditions. I cannot put them in hotels. I would mean, like, what do we do? America is like, okay, I'll take them because we know Cubans want to get here. Mm-hmm. Then they are like, okay, but according to the law, they have to walk. Okay, Mexico, could we fly them from Panama to, for example, in my case, was El Paso, Texas. That's the border where I flew to. They fly us there, and then they get a police officer to escort us all the way across the bridge and get to America. Once we get to America, we go to immigration, and we turn ourselves in.
It just seems so silly. Mm-hmm. It just seems so silly. Like the thought of, I don't know, just the thought of the U.S. government being like, yes, we'll take them, but we're not going to make it easy.
Again, maybe the law is there. Maybe it's the United States respecting the law. And we're going to help you get here because you're escaping communism.
Yeah.
That's nice, I guess. And I like it somehow. I'm being, to be honest, in this side, I'm in love with what they did. I don't care that I have to walk that little,
right?
Because but I guess it's respecting the law. I mean, you cannot come into the country, in a plane, because the law says dry, wet feet. Yeah. So you have to walk, and it was not a bad walk. You just cross the bridge. But
yeah. At least they got you to the bridge. Man, that is so like you shared a little bit of that story with me before, and I'm just like, I take for granted so much of what I just have here in the US in my day-to-day. And cuz your story is incredible and unique, and like there's so much there that's just like awful and tragic and uplifting parts of it as well. But it also is the story of so many people.
Thousands, millions.
You know, you mentioned Pakistanis, Africans. I mean, those are people that probably looked at you from Cuba and thought your journey sounded like a breeze. As crazy as your story sounds like to me, they're probably like, you don't know anything. I came from the other side of the world.
Yes, sir.
And nobody is stopping me in Colombia. Like I've made it to Colombia from Africa. Like that's probably why they had machetes and were like, we will kill whoever. Cause I can't even imagine. And then you come here and you just see all of the people that are born and raised here just super ungrateful and complaining about everything. And, you know, they weigh 400 pounds. And
I'm telling you, I look at them and they were like, I saw a group the other day. They have this picture of Che Guevara. I don't know if you heard of him.
Yeah, and they wear the shirts and you're just like.
I was like, do you know that my grandpa was Che Guevara's bodyguard? And my grandpa had to hold 15-year-old girls for the Che to rape them? Do you know that? That's the revolution hero. Do you know that he will kill people just to practice? You know, how good he was at, shooting people from far behind. Do you know that he used to get to the farmers' houses and tell them, kill your best cow. I'm going to eat here today, and you're going to do this for the revolution. And the farmer was like, I'm not killing my best. And if you don't do it, I'm going to rape your daughter. I'm going to kill your wife. I'm going to, So that's El Che Guevara. You don't know who you have on your shirt.
Right.
They of course, Cuba, made him popular as a hero, but he was a murderer. He would kill people just because they would say that they didn't like him.
Right.
He would kill people. That's not a way to make a revolution. There's no need for that.
Yeah.
And so, and I see them with their shirts and stuff, and I'm like, you don't know. You don't know. My grandparent was a bodyguard for him. And there's this day he makes the story that he had to slap him at Che Guevara because he was drunk and he wanted to go out to rape a girl. But the war was really bad in those days and he had to be hidden. And my grandpa's job was to keep him safe. And he had to slap him, and he tells us the story of I am the only man that has slapped Che Guevara. But the reason why he had
survived. Yeah.
So I'm like, you boys, girls, you don't know where you are heading to. If you would only know.
Right.
If you would only know the truth. Because it's not like what history books say, or it's not like, no, I am the grandson of the Che's bodyguard. I'm telling you, I know what I'm telling you. I had to suffer my grandpa not being there because he was in the jungle fighting with El Che Guevara. So I know what I'm telling you.
Right. And you just got some spoiled kid that thinks it looks cool on a T-shirt.
Yeah. And America needs this, and America's not good. This is good,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like the level of ignorance it takes to wear that T-shirt complaining about the U.S.
when there are millions running away from that T-shirt.
It's like
millions.
Just blows my mind. Yeah. And they're the same, it's like, and then you come here and people are like, what is a woman? And it's like, really? These are the issues of today. We're just going to throw common sense out the window.
That's because they have everything figured out. They have nothing to talk about. Let's make this out.
Go to Cuba. Spice it up.
Right away. Next month, every woman is going to be a woman and every man is going to be a man. Just 1 month. You don't need more because you will be thinking about how do I make it till tomorrow.
Right.
How?
Yeah, when you're worried about food, these ridiculous issues
become so stupid and so
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think you nailed it. It's a lack of real things to worry about. Because it's not even people complaining about, well, I don't have enough money and billionaires need to be taxed more and whatever, are still living an incredible life.
Look around.
Right. It's just like...
Just have a quick peek.
Right. And just an ounce of perspective and gratitude and humility, and it's just all that stuff just seems like it's gone out the window. And
Again,
obviously,
still, if you want to fight for a cause that you think is a just cause, I'm not saying don't fight it. If you think that millionaires or whatever,
yeah,
that doesn't mean that because other countries are worse, I have to, cross my hands and be happy with one. No. You still fight for, but you're gonna fight with such a different perspective, and you're gonna fight that war coming from such a different place of humility and having your feet on ground that you're not coming from zero. You're not fighting from zero. You are fighting from a place of freedom to get more freedom, from a place of freedom and abundance to get more abundance, from a place of, I live my life the way I want to, but I want you to start living your life like it's totally different.
right.
Like you should be grateful and at least fight that cause with a grateful heart and with gratitude and the knowledge that the whole world, most of the whole world is living in such different conditions and in such a, poor way that you're lucky. Then from there, go and do your fight. I'm telling you, most of the times people, when they realize this, they go like, it doesn't make any sense to go and fight this fight. It really, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I have so much that why would I put my time into? No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
It's like in our country too. It's like not only can you have the freedom of choice and an abundance of opportunity. What's really cool about it that you also don't have in communism is if you are successfully taking opportunities, shepherding your resources, your time, the things God's entrusted you with, you're shepherding those things well, you may get to a point where now you can also offer opportunities to other people. It's like, it's easy to look at the billionaires and be like, well, Jeff Bezos should pay more in taxes. Like, maybe so, but he has created more opportunity for other people than you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Amazon employs 300,000 people or something crazy. Like those are 300,000 jobs that may not exist without Amazon. Those are people that are now able to work at those jobs, have benefits, feed their families, whatever. Like it's so easy as a person that's been born and raised in America to just see that as normal and expected. And it's like, no, it's not at all. Like in the vast majority of the human existence and in a lot of countries today, that's not a thing.
It is not.
There is not a Jeff Bezos that has the freedom and opportunity to go create an Amazon and to, Jeff Bezos is worth whatever, $300 billion. Well, he only owns like 10% of Amazon. Jeff Bezos and all of the people that have helped and worked with him have created a company that's worth $1.2 trillion. That value is created in our economy, benefits everyone in the economy.
Absolutely.
Not just the people working there or whatever. Amazon provides an incredible, valuable service that a lot of us use. And I think it's taking the easy route to look at somebody like that and be like, well, he's just a greedy capitalist that should pay more in taxes. It's like, A, he's paid more in taxes than anybody saying that ever will. Most people that I've ever heard saying that haven't ever even really paid taxes. Like if you get a tax refund, don't talk to me about Jeff Bezos. You know what I mean? Like tax refunds are good. I'm glad they exist. I think the money should stay with the people and less with the government, blah, blah, blah. But like if you're still getting a refund on your taxes, don't talk to me about Jeff Bezos and his taxes.
What have you produced that you're getting refunds?
Exactly. Like you have not reached a level of understanding yet where I am willing to have that conversation with you.
Get there, and you realize why they're getting the liability, or why they're getting the little benefits that they're getting, and get there, and you realize, then you'll be you'll be on Jeff Bezos' team probably, and you'll be like, you don't understand, telling the others that are judging you for this or for that.
Most people will only get a certain level of understanding through like the doing of it. And like, I've certainly fallen in that category. And I realize now that it's like, people will call these things tax loopholes, corporate tax loopholes. And it's like, they're not loopholes, just like you were talking about with the immigration system. The tax system is incredibly well thought through.
Oh, yes.
The government incentivizes companies to do things that the government knows it can't do well. Whereas like communism will try to take over like an Amazon and provide the value itself and reap all the benefits. The government's not good at stuff like that. It takes well incentivized corporate structure to incentivize everybody that works in that system to grow the company and all of that. The government strategically has these loopholes because it knows, how do I simplify this? Would the government collect more money if it taxed every penny that Amazon made at 50%? Or if it reduced the taxes on Amazon and let Amazon grow by deciding to reinvest that money? I mean, Amazon wasn't profitable for the first, decade, and some of that's profitable on paper, but a lot of it is they were genuinely reinvesting a ton of money to create the behemoth that is Amazon today. And I'm picking on Amazon, but it's a tale as old as time, with even down to my teeny tiny company. It's like, I show a loss on my taxes because that money's genuinely getting reinvested so that I can provide for myself, my business, my family, my church, my community. But also the government is incentivizing my company through tax loopholes to help the government do something it can't do well, which is provide quality, affordable housing to residents in our community.
Absolutely.
The government is garbage at it. Like, they're terrible. Like, you probably can, but like, government provided housing, like not just government subsidized, government paying for some of it in some way, but government provided housing, where like the U.S. government owns the apartment complex, maintains it, collects your rent. Like, they do it like the IRS and be like, well, based off your income, you tell us what you pay in rent, and then I'll tell you it's wrong at the end of the year. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And at the end, I don't think it should even be the government's job to do that.
It's not.
Why you have
I agree.
to? No. You have enough to worry about, and there's enough stuff around there for you to think about. Let people create their businesses and provide what the people need, and everyone work, and everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. The government, in my humble, like I said, I'm an idiot, but in my humble opinion, shouldn't do anything other than providing what we cannot provide for ourselves. So it's things like domestic and foreign protection. There's not many
Security.
more. There's not many more that I would put on the list. Like, it's a limited
I think
list.
It's like,
then like, local law enforcement, like local government can handle law enforcement, keep the roads in, good condition, schools, public schools. Like, I'm all for, and I'm all for a social safety net, in the sense of, there are people that fall on hard times, unemployment, Social Security, people get older. I'm all for that kind of stuff. I think the systems currently are a bit flawed, and they're easy for people to manipulate and take money from deserving individuals. But I'm also too stupid to offer a better solution. So I just keep my opinion to myself. Because that's what I always tell people. It's like, if you're going to complain about something,
it's because you have already the solution in your mind.
You'd better be, because you have a better solution. I don't have one, so I'm going to try not to complain. But so I did want to talk a little bit about what you're doing now, because I find it encouraging as well. I think it's just the unfinished chapters of what's going to be your amazing book. But so now that you're in the U.S., now you've got your wife and your son here as well, which is so exciting. I can't imagine what the years of waiting to get them here were like, but I'm very happy for you now that they're here. And so let's dive in a little bit about what you're doing now, what you have going on. You have some real estate stuff going on, which is really exciting. So I guess from your perspective, give us a little update on some of that.
Well, because I live in a free country now, and because I can do what I want, and for the good of my family, and for the good of my community, and for the good of my church, and for the good of whoever is around me, I've realized that this is what I'd like to do in terms of like providing for my family. And I'm working in this house that I just got to buy, amazing property that I'm gonna turn into a different, I would say like a complex. Thinking about doing 4 or 5 apartments or different places to live in there. That's how good the property is. And you said open agendas, and that's so true. Like all the dreams that I had since I'm a kid, here I am being 40-year-old, and I'm so excited, like going like crazy with so many dreams and so many things that I had postponed, and I have some of them even given up. And here I am, like being born again. Like there's hope, there's so much to do, and there's possibility. I just have to put the hard work, and I have to put the mind and being smart, both things to get there. And I still have the time, and I still have the strength and the health and everything that I need to get there. So yes, getting into the real estate business has been a blessing for me, because I see the possibility and the opportunity to provide for my family and leave a legacy for them as well when I'm not here, and which is something I always thought that I would never be able to do. And now here I am, trying to build something that I can pass on to my future generations, to my kid and my grandkids. So yeah, that's my starting point in real estate. Very excited about the journey ahead.
It's incredible, because a lot of for a multitude of reasons, but like a lot of people let the fear stop them, or let the hurdles that you undoubtedly faced, go from being a hurdle to being a wall that you don't get through. But you getting to the point where you find a property, you buy the property, you have ownership of it, and you stumbled upon house hacking, I think before probably ever even like really hearing that term. But it is what I've told a lot of younger people that ask me about how to get started in real estate, tell all of them the same thing. I'm like, if you can find a property that you can house hack, that's just the name of the strategy. It is undoubtedly like where I would start again if I were starting from scratch. And the gist, the breakdown of a house hacking strategy is, typically if you qualify for like a normal loan, conventional financing is what we would call it. You can use that conventional financing for anything that's 4 units or less. So it can be what we would call a quadplex, triplex, duplex, all the way to a single family house, right? So you've got a single family house situation that you're turning into a duplex, and then adding a third and fourth and potentially even a 5th unit, because it's a bigger house, it's on a good piece of property, it's got a detached garage, and it's got all of these things that you'll be able to turn into livable units. But the gist of it is there's multiple units, and you're able to live in one, rent out the others, and that rental income helps you pay down your debt and cover the living expenses.
Absolutely.
So that you're able to provide a place for people to live. In return, they give you rent, and you are able to pay down your debt without you having to pay it all down yourself. And to some people, it doesn't look sexy or appealing because you look at the income versus the expenses, and it's not necessarily putting a lot of cash in your pocket every week or month. But what it is doing is it's building equity. And it's one of the main points I like to talk to people about when they're getting into real estate investing, because the power of that equity, once again, doesn't look sexy or super appealing at the beginning,
right
maybe.
Now, yeah.
But it is the best way that I've seen to escape the rat race where you're stuck in the wheel of, I'm only generating income based off of the effort I'm putting in to the wheel.
8 to 5.
Yeah.
For me, it's the best way to run away from that. And
Right.
to get to that point. Mm-hmm.
And it's a snowball, or like more like a boulder. It's so hard to get rolling. You know, you push as hard as you can. It starts rolling a little bit.
Yeah.
You get it to move a little bit. You start to see a little motion. But the next thing you know, it's building momentum. And so many people get discouraged in those early days where it's like, I'm pushing. You know, you're working on this house. And by the way, do some incredible work. I've seen the place.
Thank you.
This is not, I mean, I've renovated, I don't know, it's like 600-ish houses at this point. And it's not a compliment I give lightly. Like, I mean, tile, drywall, like awesome. Flooring,
my best,
like, dude, like really impressive. Really impressive. Doing a lot of it yourself.
Thank you.
Which is also really impressive. That's what we would call sweat equity, right? So there's equity that happens. You'll experience some of it soon when you've got your first residents moving in. They'll pay you to live in your second unit. That is just building equity with like a bank. We'll just call it a bank. What you're doing when you're renovating your house is sweat equity or forced appreciation. So through just hard work, determination.
I'm going to show you that I
Right.
have equity here. That
Yeah, you take a property that you bought for, let's call it $100,000. You through just pure hard work, determination, effort, hustle, grit, whatever, you go renovate that place by yourself. You buy the materials, you do all the work, you know, and let's say that costs you $50,000. But now the property is worth $250,000. So that's forced appreciation. And in your case, because you've made it do that, right? You did the work to that $50,000 worth of work, but it increased the value of the property to $250,000. So that you forced the appreciation through sweat equity because you did it yourself. I do a lot of forced appreciation, but a lot less of the sweat equity at this point.
at this point, yeah.
Right. It used to be a lot more sweat equity, and now I'm lazy, and I do things like podcasts. And
Well, I'm telling you, at this point, you deserve it. I hope I get there.
You will stick with it because I know you at this point. You will stick with it, and people get discouraged in those early days because it does take time. You know, you will be sitting there with the one unit rented out, and then you'll get another one done, and you'll get another one done. And the cost will cover your monthly expenses, but it won't. There will be times where it doesn't feel worth it. But a year, 2, 3 down the road, you'll go talk to a banker and you'll say, look, I've got this property. It's got 4 rented out units. It brings in this much a month, and I owe this little amount left on it. And that banker is going to say, awesome, the property's worth $300,000 and you owe $60,000 on it. That's a $290,000 difference. You can use that $290,000 as collateral for $1 million loan. And you'll be like, what? And then you'll go use some of that to buy your next property, and you'll do it again. And
I'm telling you, I'm excited about it. And I have a friend that tells me, oh, think about it twice. I have the money to do it, and I haven't done it because it's not worth, like, you're putting all this work on. What are you going to get now? $1,000 a month? Like, what is that? You need thousands and thousands. And I was like, how do you build those thousands? Like, you have to start somewhere. I was like, no, if I was you, I would look for something better. I have the money to do what you're doing, but I'm not willing to put that much work into it. When you say sweat equity, I'm like, yes, that's the best way to describe it, because I'm putting this work that I have friends who could do it, and they have the resources, and they say, no, I'm not doing that. It's too much work.
Are they where you want to be when you?
No, they just have, they're in a place where they have the money to do it, but they're not necessarily money that they made or something. It's like they have they have money accessible to themselves. Like, let's say father, whatever, family money that they could use, and they are choosing not to, and they are thinking what to do, or we'll see if we invest or whatever. That doesn't take work. Sweat. You know what I'm saying? So when you say that way, it brought them to my mind, like, yes, I'm deciding to take this path, which, yes, it's painful at the beginning, but I feel like I'm building something for the future, and, you know, the equity and all that you mentioned. And they go like, we don't want to build anything. We want to get this money and put it to work it by itself. I don't want to work.
Yeah, I think just I spend a lot of time trying to explain it, because a lot of people can't get past the idea of, well, I spent 80 hours working on that,
what I get,
and I didn't get an 80-hour paycheck. And it's like,
that's now.
I know, but that mindset is what keeps you locked in at a job making $30,000, $45,000, $60,000, $100,000 a year. And there's nothing wrong with that. The security of a job is something I really liked for a long time. And some days I really miss having the security of that salary job. But it's also a very limiting factor. We talk about the risk of going into entrepreneurship. People fall under this misbelief that it is not risky to work for somebody else. And I disagree. It's extremely risky to work with somebody else. It's like atheists will talk about the faith that it takes to be a believer. And it's like, dude, it takes faith to be an atheist.
It does. How do you know?
Right.
There's nothing, right?
Right. Like, right.
It's faith at the end.
Yeah.
Faith.
Like if I told you that, you know, a big bang, like a big boom happened, and I picked up and this phone just suddenly appeared and it's perfectly arranged, and
it takes more faith, in my opinion.
Yeah. It takes a lot of faith to be, so anyways, it's the same, not to get on a completely faith-based thing, but it's, some people will get it and some people won't. And I feel like I've just had to become okay with, when explaining equity and the benefits of it, I can only do so much. It's almost like preaching the gospel. I can only do so much.
It's up to people.
And at a certain point, it's beyond. But I'm excited with somebody when somebody like you is doing it, and I just want to be encouraging that, because I've seen the benefits of it. And equity is one of those things where you have an event like COVID or any of these drastic economic events, and whereas the person that may be giving you advice is stuck working for a salary and getting that paycheck, well, guess what? Like, all of a sudden that paycheck may disappear, and all of a sudden the equity in your property triples. You know, it's just like the way these things tend to work. That's so and all of a sudden you go from, you know, them giving you advice to them asking you for advice.
More than advice.
Money or whatever. Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. It's risky and it's hard and it's a lot of work with no immediate reward. But that's the trend nowadays, right? Whether it's politics, whether it's business, whatever, everyone, and it's probably always been this way, but everyone prefers the immediate reward.
Yeah.
I do too. Like, I like sugar. Like, I like candy. Gives me that immediate reward. Yeah. But I should be eating broccoli and a salad because it's good for me long term.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why you have this, smashed potato that comes in a bag, and all you have to do is add hot water. Nobody wants to peel the potato anymore.
Right.
Nobody wants to cut it and put it to boil. Now, give it to me like now. Right. Smashed potatoes. You don't know if it's even potato, but anyway, it says it's mashed potato. Good for me.
Yeah.
Everything has to be right now, and I think my background helps to understand the value of creating something that could be sustainable and that could last longer. Because I come from a system where you don't look to the future. You just have to work with what you have here today, and there's no hope to build something that lasts. Mm-hmm. Having that background helps me appreciate, wow, now I have the opportunity to create something that I've been sweating my whole life for nothing, just to eat. What if I keep sweating?
Yeah.
And I build something that is going to last for my future generations and my kids and my grandkids. This is amazing.
When you'll be able to, you can still have high expectations for your son, obviously, but you can do it in a way that doesn't force him to feel like he has to be the savior of the family.
Not anymore.
Right.
It has to end.
Right. Yeah, that chain has been broken.
It's been broken, brother.
That's
the idea.
I have high expectations for you as my son.
You're going to have to work. You're going to have to deserve a lot of stuff,
Right.
And you're going to have to prove that, you understand the sacrifice that this took, and you're going to do your own sacrifices. It's not going to be handed like, here you are, do whatever you want and spoil it and don't appreciate it. No. It's not going to come easy to him, but that doesn't mean that it's like myself, like you're going to have to weight that heavy weight of you are the savior of bunch of 50-something, 60-something-year-old people that couldn't do anything with their lives.
Right.
Now you have to fix that now. I don't think it's fair.
Yeah. He's just going to have the weight of, I did all this to build a platform for you to build on top of.
Continue. You have a responsibility on top of this legacy that I'm passing on to you. Mm-hmm. It's not like you get it and now I'm going to enjoy it. No, you're gonna build on top of it and make it grow even more, and try to get to the point when you start blessing other people.
Right.
Still there's a responsibility.
Yeah.
There's still a responsibility, and there's some sort of like weight that you're gonna carry, but it's not the same. It's just I was given nothing.
Right.
I was given nothing, and all I was given was mistreat and all this sad story in the past that I've been trying to forgive myself and the people around it. That's not what I want to pass on to my kid. I want to pass on to him something like built with love and we're trying to bring him up in a different way, but at the same time he still have to be appreciative of and not entitled. Appreciative of we don't have anything. We're just starting, as you said. We're just starting. We cannot say we have anything yet, but whatever we get to build, he'll have to appreciate that and understand he doesn't deserve everything. He has to work for what he wants.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you this too. It's great to have things to aspire to. A certain car for the wife, but it just turns into something else. Like I'm realizing this and trying to be better about it because I like stuff. I love things, and it's a fine line of being like motivated to go get something, but realizing full well that once you get that thing, it just becomes another thing. And that thing that, like the car outside is my wife's car. She loved the car. We still love the car. It's a great car. But, bought it 4 years ago. It's been 4 years. And now it's like,
I may need
a new car. May need a different car. It's just the nature of these things. You get something, you want the next thing. And so I had somebody tell me this that was a mentor and somebody I looked forward to. He's like, just be really careful with the things that you get, because nobody wants to move backwards. It's like, it was going to be my wife's 30th birthday was the topic of this conversation. And she had an expensive purse. She wanted it really bad, had wanted it for a long time. And I told her no. And I was like, well, you only turn 30 once. I'm going to get her this nice expensive purse. And my wife has made no inkling since then that she doesn't still love it or that she would ever want another expensive purse. But it's like, now that bar has been set, right? Now it's like, when she gets a purse.
Believe me, it's not next purse. It's not. It's going to be the same or higher.
Right. Like nobody wants to move backwards, right? So I am in a season now of trying to stay where it's like money is going to productive things. It's going into real estate. It's going into my business. It's going into things that can serve me, myself, my family, my church, my community long term, and not into things like purses and cars.
It's hard. You have some work to do.
Well,
I'll get there. I hope one day I get there.
I'm telling you this as an encouraging thing, because I think knowing you and seeing the trajectory, it's going to become a thing for you and where you're going.
I think yes, it will. When I first got to America, I'm living with this lady that helped me through the jungle, and she tells me you have to she has certain standards in her life. She's lived in America forever. She goes like, you need this car, a reliable car, and she gets me into buying a car. I mean, it was a Toyota Corolla, nothing crazy, but I was like, okay. I understood later on, I don't need an expensive. I mean, I think I've been learning, and I'm going to try to keep myself as I grow, understanding if you don't need it, don't go that route. I'm trying to do that. I got rid of it, and since then, used cars. I've had the opportunity to buy better. I'm like, no, it's gonna be this is gonna be what I need. I don't need better than this. I don't need more than this.
Right.
I hope that it's a lesson that I've learned, but again, it's going to get the point when you'll be struggling with, should I or shouldn't I?
Well, and as I was sitting here, it's like, I don't want it to sound like I'm preaching in any way. I just get excited because when I see somebody, not necessarily even in the early stages, because I know it feels like you're at the very beginning of this journey, but it's almost like renovating a house. Like your real estate journey is going to be like a home renovation. It's like when my wife sees that I've started renovating a house, and she goes and she sees it before like the work starts, and she's like, okay, yeah, it needs work. Well, she comes and sees it in 45 days later, and everything's torn apart. Like, it was a bad house. We had to tear it down to the studs. We had to bust up all the slab and redo all the plumbing. And she comes and she sees it, and it's 20 times worse than it was before. And what I have to explain to her is, come back in 30 days and it'll be done and look way better than it did.
Days.
Right. But where you are in the process is you've got this property, you're about to rent out the first unit, feels like the very beginning, but the planning of all of it leading up to now has been the beginning. And once the first one starts, it ramps up quickly. And I'm just saying that as like a bit of encouraging. There's a Chinese bamboo plant. This is perfect analogy, right? So from the time the bamboo plant, the seed is planted, it takes like careful, like watering every day, all of this stuff, all of this careful care of this like seed in the ground, right? And I forget, it's something like 20 years. Nothing happens. This seed sits in the ground for 20 years. Then, once it sprouts, it grows 20 feet in like 3 months. And it's like, the question is, did it take 3 months to grow 20 feet, or did it take 20 years?
Yeah, absolutely, 20 years.
So you're on this part of this journey now where it's like, it can feel like you're just starting.
And nothing is happening, and
right.
Nothing is growing.
It can be really discouraging.
Yeah.
It can be really dark. Because in my own way, like I've been there. But all of a sudden, you stay faithful. You do the work. You, like we were talking about before the podcast started, it's like God doesn't give you a table. He gives you trees. Right? Like if you want a table, sometimes you have to take the trees God gave you and go chop up the wood, refine it, do all the work that make a table, right? You've got an incredible toolbox, an incredible set of skills and experiences that have prepared you for making your table. And you're farther along in that process than you think you are. And once you've built that table, building the next one just becomes easier.
Thank you. It's good to hear that.
Yeah. So I say all that about, it may have sounded silly about, buying your wife a car or like, a nice purse or whatever, but it's because I think you will get to a place where that is a concern faster than you think you will.
Probably because, especially because we've never had it, or because we have so many, now we see that we have so many opportunities and possibilities that we never had there. And we're like, I want to experience that. I want to know what it feels like,
Right. And you should. Some of it is like, you should take the trip. You should buy the purse. Like, but I would just encourage you. I just want to be one of those people that in 5 years you look back and you're like, GT tried to tell me. Because I just like, don't lose sight of the fact that like $200 a month in Cuba like paid all your bills. You can live on $200 a month or whatever. There's likely going to be a time soon where it's like, oh man, we're spending how much a month?
Yeah.
It's just the way it works.
We've already been there. My wife is like, we pay this much in bills? And she gets stressed. And I was like, we could, it's okay, we're going to survive. And she's like, I was paying not even a tenth of that when a few months ago. And it's just mind-blowing, the difference. And but I think keeping in control. The thing is to be in control of, okay, we're going to do this, but still we are in control. We have to be careful because it's really easy to fall into. I have a friend right now that he is in a situation where he says, I cannot stop this. I don't know if I can stop this anymore because they are, whatever they see, they buy it and they need everything. And there's always an excuse or reason why they have to buy this and why they need this and why they need that. And I'm like, you don't need it. He's now realizing, and he's like, how do I stop this? Was he telling me the other day, how do I stop this? How do I tell my wife that we need to stop this? She's used to it. And we're going down the hill. So if you try to stay in control. I'm going to try. I'm not saying that I got it, but try to stay in control, not to let it get to that point, because they came from a country where they had nothing as well. They're not Cubans, but same thing. All of a sudden they get some money.
Yeah.
They bought 3 new, brand new, really good and expensive cars, and they bought a crazy good house. And instead of investing and creating something with that money that they got, now he's like, how am I going to keep I don't have a way to keep this standard of life. I don't have a way to keep this. What do I do now? I have to produce, but the money I should have used to create something to produce, I used it in buying stuff. I was like, well, let me learn something.
Did you send him Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yes.
Assets and liabilities. He's heavy in the liabilities and short in the assets.
Yeah, that's the problem. And it's comfortable. I mean, not comfortable. It's nice when you are.
Oh yeah.
Living in the liabilities is so good, and it feels so good. But then
for a little bit,
life hits.
For a little bit. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I went through a lot of that. You know, go to the fancy restaurant and order whatever you want, and like, you know, you only live once, and you know. I love food. I like trying new food. I like fancy food. And you know what I realized is like, it was good. It was fun. It was an experience. I like taking my wife out, treating her well. The next week I couldn't tell you what I had or where we were, you know, because I'm busy working to make sure that we have money and that we get, and it's like, why do I keep myself in this rat race?
And
like,
the funny thing is most people are like that. Like, most people are expecting the moment that they have $5 to spend it in something.
Yeah.
Instead of, let me wait for the next 5 and get those 10 and build something. And I was there too. So I'm not, you know, blaming or pointing at anybody. It's just that it's hard to stay away from those things that the world is presenting you as good and amazing and everyone wants it.
Right.
And you say, no, I don't want it now. I'm going to wait. I'm going to build something. It's hard.
Well, you have the benefit of being in a capitalist society with the communist experience.
I think that's going to help a little.
Because,
I know how to live with nothing.
Well, because capitalism is great. Huge fan of capitalism. But there are some businesses that are really good at playing the game and selling you the stuff.
Yeah.
And being a capitalist, I'm all for it. I'm like, they're not putting a gun to anybody's head, making them buy the 3 new cars. They're just offering cars, and you have the freedom of choice.
And they tell you why you need it.
Oh yeah.
And it makes sense.
It does. Yeah. I've bought cars.
And then I've worked so hard that I do deserve this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And coming from communism, you go like, no, I don't need that car. No, but this and this and this looks good.
It does look good.
But mine works.
Right.
Like, convince me, why should I get rid of this one? It works so good. And it's really good on gas. This one is good on gas too. Yeah, but why am I going to trade one that is good on gas for another that is good on gas? Like, you need to work harder.
You got to work harder.
Yeah, I mean, like, this, what you're telling me, it sounds good, but why would I get rid of this? You know how many people in my country would give their life to have this car?
Right.
No, I'll keep this one.
Yeah.
Very soon, I was like, they get frustrated with me when I go to this place. And I was like, why do you even come here? You don't want to buy anything.
Yeah, I want to buy assets. It's like I can have ownership of things that I couldn't before. You can have ownership of income producing assets. You can go buy a little piece of Amazon and own it. You can go buy a little piece of Tesla, Ford, whatever. You can go buy a little piece of real estate and own part of your neighborhood, and like somebody will pay you more for it in the future, hopefully, or somebody will pay you to live in it. And it's like, nobody's going to pay me to live in my pickup truck. All it does is cost me money.
Yes, sir.
All it does is cost me money.
Yes, sir.
and depreciate in value over time rapidly.
As soon as you get it out of the dealership.
I'm not going to get rid of it because I like having it to get from A to B, but like, it's not an investment. It's a liability. So anyways, I may be out of rabbit holes to take us through. I appreciate you being willing to go down all of these rabbit holes with me. I normally ask people to share crazy stories, but I feel like we've already done that. Your story is incredible
we don't
and
need
crazy.
Any other crazy story.
One thing I'll leave you with. This will be the last question. If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? Let's say before you left Cuba, if you give in Cuba, Andriel, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Something that I'm trying to live right now. Do your best with what you have right now, instead of complaining and instead of postponing and instead of waiting until something happens. Do your best right now with what you have. I look back and I was telling my wife I could have done so much better, but because of this communist country or because of this government or because of this corrupt this and that. And I was postponing so many things. And even getting here, I could have gotten here way before I did. But this thing of pointing out factors and, trying to put the blame on someone just to delay what I had to do, I would change that in my life. And I would do so much that I could have done, even with the little that I had available there. I could have done so much more and stop putting the blame on people. That's why I haven't done this. That's why I cannot do this. That's why I cannot. And it's hard because communism, I mean, it literally leaves you with no resources or nothing to use. But still, when I look back, even getting here, I could have been here since I was 20 something.
Yeah.
But I was blaming, that's why I cannot go. That's why. And then all of a sudden this David comes and it's like, no, we're living now. We have everything we need. We're living now. And I'm like, crazy boy, like, government has everything controlled. He's like, we're living now, literally 4 months. What took me 33 years, we did it in 4 months. So I would say, Andriel, stop limiting yourself. Just realize with what you have, what is the best you can do, and stop complaining and crying, and just get to do something.
Yeah. I think that's great advice for everyone. There's a book that this reminded me of. It's called Extreme Ownership. The guy that wrote its name is Jocko Willink. He's a former Navy SEAL, U.S. Special Forces guy. And the whole book, it's called Extreme Ownership. It's about owning your own life. It's anti-victim mentality, and it's very much when you come to the conclusion that everything in your life is a circumstance of decisions you've made that have either put you there or kept you there. Because you had very real, you were in Cuba. It's you are justified in using that as a excuse for being oppressed or kept where you were.
To be honest, somehow, yes.
Right. No one would ever blame you for being well, I can't do XYZ because I live in Cuba and whatever. But now you're the living proof of
still
taking ownership and making decisions and realizing that, yes, there is a lot of outside influence, but also you can combat that with the choices that you make. There's a quote, and it's Earl Nightingale. He said, "We're all self-made, only the successful admit it."
That's so good.
I love it, right? Because it's you'll see the successful, high and mighty people pounding their chest. I'm here because of me and all the hard work and dedication and sacrifice that I've made. But it's true for everyone.
For everyone.
But
some
you
people
don't
are not putting the effort into it, but
right. But the people on the other end of the spectrum aren't sitting there beating my chest I'm here because of the decisions I've made and
it's all about decisions.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, that's great. Do your best with what you have right now where you're at. Yeah.
Otherwise I think you would not be given more. That's just my opinion.
Well, it's the parable of the talents, right?
And even what you have will be taken away from you, but still what you have to, I don't know, prove yourself or prove whatever that you're going to do the best with what you have now, and you will be trusted more. You'll be given more.
Yep.
And it happened to me 33 years of my life, not regretting it.
Because it has served a purpose and will serve you
yes,
well.
Mostly the purpose it served, I would say, is just telling people now, telling people now that, hey, don't let this happen to you. Other than that, I don't see much purpose. That's why I regret it a little. But if that's what it took to help other people, tell them, hey, don't fall into this. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll pay the price. But literally, not even Cuba's government could stand in front of me and tell me you cannot do this when I said I'm doing it.
Yep.
There was nothing stopping me. And I now realize, like, it was never, ever nothing stopping me other than myself, you know. So real estate here, I think I'll make it.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think I'll do it.
Yeah, I think so too. Man, this has been so great. Thank you again for coming and sharing all of your perspective and story with us, because it's an incredible one. I can't wait for the book. I will buy several copies and make you sign them. And
thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And thank you all for watching or listening. If you're on Spotify, be sure to go check out the YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check it out on Spotify. You can find us across all social media at Hustle on Purpose. And just so grateful for all of you for watching and listening. And come back again. See you next time. And hustle on purpose.